What's good, y'all, man? Today we're going to be recapping the events of Arlong Park, which is the next arc following Baratier in our series of covering all of the arcs and recapping all of them to make it a much quicker experience for people that are just getting into the series and don't have the time to sit here and watch 1,000 plus episodes or read 1,000 plus chapters. But if you want to, like I say, always go back and maybe read or watch. But these events we're going to be covering from chapter 69 through 95. Alright, so where we last left off was obviously at the end of Baratier, where Sanji finally joins the crew, and boom, we have a cook now. So now the only thing to take care of is to go back to where Nami is and collect the ship as well. So it's going to be Luffy, Johnny, Sanji, and they're out to go find where Nami went. Johnny already has a good idea, so that's where they're sailing to. It turns out that Nami is going towards like a super wanted man, supposedly the strongest in the East Blue, and that being Arlong, who's he runs a fishman crew, and the name is exactly what it suggests. It's fishman. It's a man. Built like a man, but he has fish features. So for Arlong's case, he's like a shark kind of, and he has like a super. He's basically imagine Usopp's nose, but like sharp and pointy. So like a Pinocchio with a pointy ass nose, but rigged around the edges as well. So they're going there, and obviously Luffy doesn't care about it. Sanji's not worried about it either. Johnny's the one freaking out about it because obviously Johnny's a bounty hunter. He knows how serious some of these characters are. So we cut over. We find out that Usopp and Zoro and them are looking for Nami and whatnot, and that's when they find out that Nami's actually a part of the Arlong crew. So we go through this whole little back and forth between Usopp and Zoro being surprised, kind of shocked that she's with the Arlong pirates, and she was really just duping the Straw Hats all along. Which at one point Zoro tries to do like a scene where he tries to see if test her and actually see if she's actually as cold blooded as she is. So Zoro was basically captured, and he got captured because Usopp and not Yasop. Johnny's brother, I forgot what his name. Yashu or something like that. But they basically tied up Zoro to the ship that they were on because Zoro wanted to cause some trouble. And so they tied him up to make sure he didn't cause trouble. Well, Fishman popped up on the ship, and in typical Usopp fashion, he ran away and left Zoro there tied up. So the Fishman had easy picking. So they took him to Arlong, and then that's when Zoro finds out that Nami is a part of the Arlong pirates. So, to test to see if she's actually cold-blooded, if she's actually what she's trying to preach, Zoro's like, fuck it, I'll jump in the water. He jumps in the water while he's tied up, arms and legs tied up, and Nami immediately jumps in to save him and basically like pulls him out and beats him up. But Zoro knows, like, if you were cold-blooded, you wouldn't just let me die. If you were actually a traitor or stuff like that, you wouldn't have just let me die. But, whatever happens, they just keep going back and forth, and we just go through this whole little constant scenes, like trying to determine whether Nami is actually, bad, if she actually was like a traitor and whatnot. But we get to meet her stepsister, who basically informs us that Nami is actually being with the Arlong pirates for an exact reason, and that reason being that she's trying to buy the island. So about 8 years ago, Arlong and his crew showed up to the island when Nami and her sister and Nami's mom were all living together, and they started pillaging the village and imposing tax upon them. So, and the bad thing is the tax was 100,000 berries per adult and 50,000 per kid. Well, Nami's mom didn't have 200,000. All she had was 100,000, so she left 100,000 for her kids, and she died. And it was at that point Nami made it a point. That Arlong already knew she was really good at drawing maps of the oceans, so he took her up into the crew, and that's where apparently they set up the arrangement. If she can accumulate 100 million berries, that she can buy the islands back and buy the basically have the freedom back of the village. Well, that is what caused Nami to go betray a lot of pirates and steal from them and whatnot, and kind of explains her nature. So eventually, Luffy runs into Nami And Nami's like, get out of here, you know, you're a stupid pirate, blah, blah, blah. Basically just saying whatever she can to just make Luffy leave. And Luffy ain't having it. Luffy's like, whatever, like, you're, say whatever. I'm not leaving here. I'm just gonna take a nap and, you know, I'll wake up and do what I need to do whenever I need to do it. So it's just a whole bunch of like going back and forth between people causing a mess towards the fishermen because the fishermen are either acting out against certain people and obviously Luffy and the crew aren't the norm. So like the townsfolk, they're used to them being like pressed by the fishermen. So like, and they know that they can't raise a hand to the fishermen. Whereas Luffy and the crew, like Usopp even has some bravery and sees like a citizen getting beat up, like the town mayor was getting beat up, and Usopp shot something at the fisherman to stop him. And that caused, obviously, more turmoil and whatnot. But one cool thing that happened in this arc is, so Zoro, obviously, he got free from the fisherman pirates the first time. And the first time he did it was because Arlong and the rest of the crew went into the town to, you know, check on something because the citizens apparently had been making weapons. And they left Zoro there. And so Nami cut him free and told him to leave. And so he didn't actually leave because he promised Luffy that he would bring her back. So he just stayed there at the park. He beat up the fishermen that were there and was just lounging around. And Hachi, which is basically Arlong's first mate, it's like an octopus, shows up. And he's like, who are you? And he said, are you Arlong's guest? And Zoro was like, yeah, I'm his guest. And so Hachi is so gullible and naive. He's like, well, Arlong left and went to the town. You want to ride? And he basically hops in a little boat pot that Hachi like carries or like, you know, transports people around. And when he comes back after dropping them off, he comes back and finds all of his like friends and crewmates like beat up, and there's like it was Zoro or Zoro, and then people were like, what? Where was he? Blah blah blah. And Arlong and them were like, wait, that was him? He said, Hachi, you idiot. So it was just so fucking funny because like Hachi's just like, oh my god, you know. So that was very comical, you know. Hachi was just super gullible and naive. And he tries to get revenge for it later on when he tries to fight Zoro. But yeah, we'll get into that in a second. But the only other aspect of this whole arc is the fact that the Marines were dirty. Yet another example of how the Marines can be corrupt and dirty. Just how like it is in real life, you know. But what the Marines are doing is they're paying a tax they're getting a tax cut from the Arlong pirates to basically let them do whatever they want to do. So that's something we have to work around, and that's where we call into this other dilemma. So Nami's only 7 million berries away from making 100 million berries, but what ends up happening is Arlong did say he will not dishonor their promise. He will honor it, right? But what he does is he sicks the Marines on Nami and to go confiscate that money. So they confiscate the 93 million, and they're allowed to get a 30% cut, and the rest goes to Arlong. And so Nami realizes this, and she's like pissed off at Arlong and blah blah, and, you know, just wants to beat him up. And then Arlong's like, well, I didn't lie to you. You know, you just gotta work and start back from scratch and get back to 100 mil. Nami runs out crying and screaming. And she runs back to the town, and obviously the town folks are getting ready to go rebel because they're like, they've had it. They like Nami was their last hope because the whole town was in on it. They knew that Nami was, you know, working with the pirates to get money to free them. So they were just enduring for her. So they're like, fuck it, you know, there's no point in living in this like cruel world. So we're gonna fight. We're gonna go down fighting and whatnot. So they go rush into battle, and Nami's just like, she doesn't know what to do. She's just sitting there crying. And she picks up a knife, and she has an Arlong. They put an Arlong tattoo on her arm, and she just starts stabbing herself, saying Arlong, you know, stabbing herself. And eventually, Luffy pops up, Hulk grabs her arm, and like just looks at her. And then she's like, why are you still here? I told you to leave. And Luffy's like, yeah, you did. She was like, this doesn't even have to concern you. You don't know anything about it. He said, yeah, I don't. And then Nami just looks back and just like, Luffy, help me," with like tears in her eyes and whatnot. And Luffy's response is he just gives her the hat and it says, "Of course he will." And then we see a cool little double shot of Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, and Luffy all like getting ready to go. And so this is where we get into the action part. You know, we get there, and so the funny thing was beforehand, like when Luffy was going to the island originally, they ran into a sea beast, but it was like a cow. It was a cow sea beast, like a giant cow sea beast. So they had beat it up pretty bad. So when they actually get Arlong's actual like headquarters, they get there, and the first thing Arlong and them do is they're gonna like, "Oh, we're gonna sick this, our sea beast on them." And when the cow comes up, it's like super menacing. Then it looks over and it sees that it's them. He like starts to cower and starts to run away, and then Arlong like provokes him. He's like, "You're not gonna run away, Moo Moo." That was his name, Moo Moo. And so he goes into frenzy and attacks. And Luffy's like, "Man, fuck this." So Luffy does some dumb shit. He plants both his feet in the concrete, and just like grabs a hold of the cow, and just does like a super tornado with it, and like wrecks everybody in the area. But the bad thing is he can't move. So what ends up happening is Arlong gets up, breaks the rock that he was standing, like breaks off a little rock piece that he was standing in, and chucks him in the water, because he can't get free and he can't swim because Arlong knows he has a devil fruit, so he can't swim. So now we're in the dilemma of Sanji and Zoro are gonna have to like try and save Luffy and beat the pirates as well. So this arc is the first arc where we actually see a little bit of, back and forth a little bit. So, but it's kind of forced a little bit. Like it's kind of like handicap kind of. So first Sanji is fighting a karate style fisherman, and what he does the first time is he actually has to jump into the water. He tries to jump into the water to free, like because he's trying to go down there and free Luffy. But somebody else that went down there is two citizens, two town folk, the town mayor and Nami's stepsister were down there, and they basically like stretched Luffy's head all the way up to the top of the water so he can breathe while he's trying to figure out how to break the rock. So Sanji's trying to head down there, but the karate guy shows up. They have a little fight down water, but obviously Sanji's at a handicap trying to fight a fish in water, and the fish, like, their powers are amplified in water, and obviously Sanji can't breathe. It's a struggle. Eventually Sanji's able to get out the water, and he basically he doesn't really take any damage when he's up top. So Sanji kind of like 2 or 3 shots him. So it's not bad. It was an easy fight outside of water, but Zoro is the issue. So Zoro, obviously, he only has 1 sword because his other 2 swords were destroyed by Mihawk in the previous arc. So, and he already remarked way back in Syrup Village that he's not, that proficient in 1 sword style. So Hachi is an 8 sword style, or 6. 6, I believe. 6. Yeah, it was 6 sword style. So he was out here, blah, 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 blah. And Zoro was just, fending off with 1. And at this point, he asked for Johnny and Yasopp's swords, and he got them. And he basically took out Hachi. Once he got 3 swords, he took out Hachi, like, right away. But his wounds from Mihawk was holding him down a lot. So that caused issues for him. Like, he constantly, like, kept passing out, like, falling over. And you have to get back up and just like make a cool attack and whatnot. So it wasn't a fight. It wasn't a hard fight if Zoro was 100%, or even just wasn't like his wounds weren't reopening. He was good, but all in all, it was still entertaining to read. Now, what's kind of cool, but kind of sucks is it's like now it was just Sanji went back in the water to try and save Luffy, and then you had Arlong being stalled by Zoro, but since Zoro was obviously so fucked up that he couldn't do anything to Arlong, and Arlong's holding him up and just like, "Let me go and finish you," but he rips off his bandages and he sees the giant scar that Mihawk left, and he's like shocked, like, how is this guy alive? This guy's supposed to be dead, whatnot. But eventually Sanji breaks the rock, Luffy's freed, and he shoots up into the air. And the first thing he does is says, "Hey Zoro, let's trade places." Obviously Zoro's being held by Arlong, And so Luffy stretches out and said, "Let's switch places." And it's just like this ain't gonna be good for Zoro because Zoro's finna go flying. And he's saying, "Wait." That's what Zoro's saying. Wait, no, not this. And then, whoosh, send Zoro. And obviously Zoro's already like half dead, and you just threw this man like fucking hundreds of thousands of feet in the air, and he lands. He's like, "Someday I'm gonna kill this guy." So, and then you have the Luffy and Arlong fight. So there's a lot of comedy in this. Obviously, Arlong's going back and forth, constantly praising about how the fishmen are the superior race, how humans are insignificant to fishmen and all that. He starts asking like, "Well, do you know the real difference between us?" And Luffy's just like, "Our teeth, our fins, our hands, jaws, blah blah blah," and he just kept naming off fish features and whatnot. So eventually, Luffy breaks Arlong's teeth that he was so proud of. He breaks them, and he thinks like everybody like the spectators at this point, and they're thinking, "Oh, he ain't gonna have his teeth anymore. He can't use that. Like, can't use that bite anymore." And that's when we find out Arlong, like a regular shark, can grow his teeth back, but obviously super fast. It's anime, so he just grows them back. But he can actually pull them out and grow more. So he pulled two pair out, used them as hands, and started trying to chomp at Luffy. And these like things were so strong, if they like they were hitting stone, and they were like chopping it away just like it was nothing. Which Luffy had a good little remark. He was like, "I can break stone too. That's nothing new." And he just broke a stone thing. So, but Luffy had this bright idea. He was like, "I got an idea." So he knocked one of the teeth away, and he picked the teeth up and put it in his mouth. He was like, "I got it." And so what happened was he tried to bite Arlong with his own teeth, but that's when Arlong's remarks is like, "Yeah, the teeth are sharp, but it's the jaw strength that causes it." So it's just a little comedy and a little dumb fighting tactics that Luffy's just trying. But they just keep going back and forth. Luffy lands a couple shots. Arlong gets a little shot here and there. It's not one-sided either way, but it's like pretty much Luffy's in control. And eventually they start to fight inside of the actual building Arlong has. And eventually we get to where Nami had been living and had been drawing maps and stuff like that. And Luffy observes at the desk, and like pen and all that stuff are bloody. And then he realized like this is the room she hates. This is the room she was forced to stay in. And he knew that this place needed to go. So he started destroying everything, and Arlong was getting pissed. And at the last minute, Luffy threw his foot way in there and did like he called it Gum Battle Axe, and basically just slammed his foot down and basically crushed Arlong. And they were at like the top of the floor. Say there was probably like 7 stories high, and they were like on the 7th story, and he smashed him down all the way down to the 1st story, and in the event destroyed the entire building. And boom, fight over. And now the Marines tried to show up. It was like, hey, we seen you finally defeated the fishmen, blah blah blah. Trying to come over to act like good guys, but also trying to get their own little tax too. He was like, I won't put a bounty on y'all if y'all don't, blah blah blah. Just being a scum little rat that he was. And Zoro beats his ass, and everybody beats their ass and whatnot, and they send him on their way. So, and it was kind of cool because after that, he runs over and calls in headquarters and like, "Hey, I need you to put a bounty on a pirate now." So this is where Luffy's gonna get his first bounty. We don't get the actual bounty price yet. I mean, I already know it, but we'll cover that in the next arc. So, because that's going to be a topic of discussion. But we get that, and then the only thing left that happens in this arc is we get a little touching reunion, a little bit for the townsfolk and Nami, and they don't get to say goodbye like they want to, but obviously it's still somewhat touching. So Luffy and all of them are about to sail out. Nami still is on the ship, and everybody else and the town folks were at the edge trying to see off the ship. And Nami comes running full speed, and she runs past everybody, and she doesn't hug, she doesn't do anything, any sappy shit like that, and jumps on the boat. And next thing you know, she lifts her shirt up, and all their wallets start falling out. And so she looks back and basically that was her, her saying goodbye, doing what she does best, being a thief, stealing and whatnot. So overall, the arc was really good. One of the best arcs in my opinion, and especially for a character like a part of the Straw Hats, because like Nami is like, she's introduced in Orange Town, and basically she becomes like pseudo a part of the crew. But even then, she lets you know that like I'm here to meet it, make a go, like just for like a certain amount of time. But obviously Luffy doesn't see it that way. Luffy's like, you're a part of the crew, so that's why he's going so hard for her and whatnot. But now this is where she actually became a part of the crew, because like now she's here. She's not tied down to, trying to get the money to buy her village back and whatnot. But all in all, my review can't do it complete justice, because some of the backstory you get with Nami is super, super sad and touching, that me just like recapping it won't do it justice. So please, if you are interested in this, please watch it or read it, and you'll get a lot more touching experience than I did. Same with the when she was stabbing her arm. The anime does that a lot more brilliant, because it's actually obviously I said she repeatedly stabs her arm. In the manga, you only see her stab it like once, but in the anime, she's stabbing herself multiple times. So it can be very touching. So, like I said, like I always say, just if you're gonna indulge in it, obviously, if you want to just only have time for one, do that. But say if you just read an arc and then watch that arc and do it like that, and just take your time, because you don't have to binge through it. So, but I just want to try and, condense these arcs as best as I can. This video is going to be a little over 20 minutes. I think I cut it down a lot more from the Variety Day arc, because I feel like the Variety Day arc I kind of like babbled on a little too long. So y'all let me know what y'all think. If y'all like the video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. It helps out a lot. I see a lot of views. The views are a lot higher than the subs. I'd want them to be a little higher, but I just appreciate y'all for tuning in, and please drop in the comment and tell me like what you would want me to do. Would you want me to be more detailed, or would you want me to be more concise? Like I was trying to be more concise on this one. All right, y'all. Peace.